All right, so I want to talk about dealing with difficult personalities at the courthouse. This is an important topic because, and this isn't just for people who might consider hiring me as clients of mine. This is actually for other lawyers because a lot of this is hard-won, achieved knowledge, achieved wisdom over a career. And because I can remember the various phases where this kind of came to, kind of developed over time. The first personality I dealt with, it was difficult. Even thinking about this, I can think back to ones that I thought were the first, and I think, wait, no, there was another one before that. Whether it was a prosecutor, I did this in law school for the criminal justice clinic at SMU, so I was learning the ropes there early on as a student lawyer. They gave us a temporary license to practice law while students under the supervision of other lawyers, and so I had to deal with prosecutors and judges. There was a really difficult judge, Judge Ben Ellis in County Criminal Court Number 1. And he was kind of feared because he would chew you out if you did something wrong. And people didn't like going in there because of that. But, he was also a very fair judge in a lot of ways. And learning that difficult personalities don't mean impossible results, don't mean bad outcomes, is an important thing. And also kind of developing over a career strategies for dealing with people and trying to understand what makes them tick and why they might be difficult and what might be a way to break through that, to deal with that so that it doesn't affect the outcome, because that's the danger, is that, and I've had this happen where a difficult personality made it hard for me to get what I thought was the right result, what was a fair result, and what in fact turned out to be the right result. I can remember so many examples of this, but taking a little bit of a psychological approach to the people you're dealing with and saying, okay, why is it that they're this way, and what can I do to try to treat that, to negate that, or marginalize that effect, or neutralize it. Those things can be critically important to getting a good result for the client, and that's all it's about, is getting a good result for the client. If you can't do that, you're not doing the best job for them. And so it's, I think some people just give up and say, I can't deal with this. I'm not taking cases in that court anymore, or I'm never going to deal with that prosecutor anymore, and they just shut off the valve. But you can't do that. You got to be, you got to hang in there. You got to keep finding ways to try to make a difference. And let me give you some concrete examples of this. Maybe this will be helpful. If you see, for instance, a judge that, or not necessarily a judge, it can be a prosecutor who's very formal in the way they dress, and they want to communicate by everything about them that, by God, they are a judge, or by God, I'm a prosecutor. And they don't smile, or everything is just super formalized. You can sense that that's going to be difficult. There's no humanity or familiarity or friendliness or, casual banter or anything. It's just bam. That can be off-putting. It can be difficult to approach in that situation. And I think one thing to remember is there's a reason for people being that way. And none of these difficult personalities look at themselves in the mirror and think, you know what, I am in fact an asshole. They're just trying to do their job, and their personality might get in the way. I remember one time I was dealing with a jailer. I learned a lot from dealing with difficult jailers. I was dealing with a jailer who's extremely difficult, and it was one of the few times I actually went and complained on somebody. When I complained, there's something interesting going by here. Fat, tired mopeds. It looks like rental moped tours. I haven't seen this before. It's kind of cool. Oh, in fact, I know that guy, Oscar. He works for the city in the tourism office. So he's working right now. It looks like he's not, but he is. Jailers. Yeah, so jailers. I went and complained on this one jailer because no matter what you did to try to break through her BS, her terrible, let's call it bedside manner, terrible customer service. In fact, to the point of being rude, abrupt, kind of, to use one of Donald Trump's words, nasty. She just wasn't very nice. And it affected the way things got done. It affected the customer service. It affected the amount of time it took to handle a transaction. Just a bad, bitter attitude. And I wouldn't complain. And I remember the jailer said, well, she's not mean. That's just her nature. It's like, isn't that just a way of saying she's not this way? She is this way. It's like, what did you say to me, really? If you said she's not mean, that's just her nature. Well, you said she's mean. Anyway, sometimes a complaint is what it takes to get a person to be nicer. But what I found, especially working with jailers, is that sometimes they get this way just by the very nature of their job. In fact, I can tell you some things that made a big difference in difficult personalities at jails. One is if you have someone who has to take phone calls and deal with the public on the phone and has the ability to put that person on hold, their temperature will rise, especially if they have to keep taking call after call after call from people who don't fully understand what they're being told, ask for things multiple times. When you answer their question, they say, huh? And they make you say it again. And then they call you back multiple times to get the same information. They won't wait a little bit. If you tell them wait a half an hour, they'll call back in 5 minutes. What else can they do that's very irritating? Oh, they get upset and they start yelling at you on the phone when you're just trying to get information. There's only a certain level of tolerance that people can have with that kind of behavior over the phone before they start getting fed up and they burn out. And then they adopt this defensive posture that's just rude and curt and short, and it's human. It's a human response to the environment they're in. So that's one thing. The phones can make a jailer turn sour fast. And I'm talking about, you'll see people come in and they're nice and bubbly and fine, and they smile and they make jokes. And then after a period of time, it just grinds them down till their personality just gets shifted into this bitter, bitter person. And it's not just the phones that do that. Sometimes environment in the jail can make a difference. Jail policies can make a difference. One thing I found is that a lot of the policies that jails and prisons and police departments have, they're there to make a difference in how things go. They make people less likely to be irate, less likely to fight, less likely to riot. That's why they take weapons away from jailers. They don't have their service revolvers, not revolvers anymore. They don't have their service weapon on their side anymore. They have to lock them up in a box. Why? Because it cuts down on people trying to take hostages, rioting. It cuts down on the disparity between power, all sorts of things. It cuts down on the visible threat. And so it creates a more peaceable environment. And all of these things that are put in place have reasons they're in place to make things better, not just for the jailers, but also for the inmates. And that another thing I found, in addition to the phones that make jailers just, is when they have to push a button to talk to people. So when I started practicing, most jails, you had a window you could walk up to and you could just talk to the person and you could see the person. And you didn't have to push a button to talk to them. But I knew early on that the few jails that you had to press a button to talk, you got bad customer service there because the jailer had to take that extra step to talk to you. And then when they started putting in these bulletproof windows, like they'd build a new jail or they'd remodel the old jail and they could afford to put in the bulletproof glass and the button you push or the microphone that you have to talk into, the barrier to communication that causes, that you have to rely on that device and sometimes push a button to talk through that device, created all sorts of walls to personable communication, amiability, friendliness, cheerfulness. It just put up these walls. And it also increased the temperature of the jailers, where they had this sort of built up angst or anger or tension or stress that would grind them down over time. So the phones and the push a button to talk And then the other thing is putting tint on the windows so you can't see in there. That creates all of the sorts of problems. So, but finding the reasons and finding a way to work around those can be very important. Make all the difference in the outcome. And that's not just the jails, it's also courts. You learn all these things over time, but if you're applying your mind and your heart to solving these problems, you can make all the difference in your outcome. Such that, when I go into courts, I go into some of the most difficult courts, the ones that people won't work in, and I can walk out, and I've had this happen 2 times in the last year, where courts that people don't work in because they know that they're going to take a case and then they'll get stuck there all morning and have to come back in the afternoon, and then sometimes have to come back the next day. I've had cases where I walk into those courts and in and out with a dismissal in 5 to 10 minutes. 2 occasions I can think of this year that's happened. So if you think about it in terms of like a fishing analogy, people have this lake that, they're having a fishing competition at this lake. Oh, you can't catch any fish there. There's nowhere. They're not biting. The coves are all whatever. The conditions are horrible. If you have to fish there, you might as well find a way to apply all your knowledge, all your wisdom, all your thinking power in your heart to find a way, this is for courts, but to find a way to catch those damn fish so that you're the one that can go in there, trawl in among all the other pissed off fishermen, put the lure in, throw the line out, grab a fish, come out, and you don't even have to hold it up and say, because when I get good results in the court, I don't go, look, I got a dismissal. You people still sitting here. No, I just take it and go. Same thing with a fish. You catch a fish, you go eat. But paying attention to what the reasons are and finding ways around it can make all the difference. I don't know that I gave a lot of strategies in this little video. Maybe I'll do a follow-up that has specific strategies. I'll give you one. If you find someone who's super by the book, all business, sometimes, and I've learned this playing poker, there are groups of people who find ways. Respect is very important in poker, first of all. If you don't have respect, you're going to have a hard time bluffing. And if you're in a category of people who don't typically get respect, you got to find a way to get it, or you're going to suffer because you can't bluff. You got to be able to bluff to win in poker, at least a little bit. So, respect is important. And so if you're a judge and it may be something from your past that causes you to feel like, you know what, I know I'm a judge, it feels great, but I still need my respect. If you see signs of someone that you can see they feel it very important that they have respect, well, damn it, you better give them that respect. So formality is going to be very important. Courtesy, politeness, paying attention to traditions and things that are expected as far as, like I said, formalities. In England, when you go out of a court, you're supposed to back out and bow before you leave. If you don't do that and you got to go back into that court and do business, you're going to have problems. So if you don't say, Your Honor, may I approach? Or you don't say, Your Honor, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor, every time. And some of these judges, they pay real close attention to that. Or you don't say, sir or ma'am. Or you don't wear a tie. Or you're wearing jeans. These things can be very unimportant in some courts and critically important in others. And you got to know those things. You got to pay attention to that stuff because it can make all the difference in your results. Now, if you go into a court and you happen to know that judge is very casual and very informal and they like to chat and laugh and whatever, and you walk up to them and you say, Your Honor, may I approach? They may kind of think it's funny. And if you know that you don't need to do that, you can do that and kind of get more of a rapport with them. But if you don't know, it's always best to err on the side of formality. Use the niceties, the things that are expected, and be very polite, be very respectful, be very courteous, and do those things. Because that's, if you're going to err on one side, err on that side. Don't err on the side of informality or casualness or attire that's not appropriate for a courtroom. Like I said, you may be able to get away with it, and it may make you more comfortable to the staff. But until you know that's the case, don't do it. And I'll tell you another tip. A lot of attorneys are afraid of going out of county because they're going to get hometown, and I've had that happen to me. I've felt it. It can be very harsh, but again, you don't give up. You fight through it, and if you show yourself to be a person of character, a person of respect, of authority, expertise, politeness, and you keep going back, you can earn your way into being treated right. And it sucks, but you can do it. And if you take the right approach from the beginning, you may not have to go that route. You may not have to earn the respect because it'll just be given over. I'll give you a little tip that makes a difference. If you go into a court pretending to be this or thinking that you're this big shot Dallas lawyer and all these people are stupid and talk funny and they don't know what they're doing and that's the reason they're practicing in a small town, you'd be surprised the talent of the lawyers practicing in these small towns. There are some very formidable attorneys and judges working in these smaller towns, and you don't want to make assumptions about them. And you want to present yourself in a way that shows that you respect their authority, their capacity, their expertise, their skill. Don't make assumptions. Go in thinking you're fighting with or dealing with the best, and treating them like that. The other thing is, so if they sense that you feel you're superior, they're gonna try to slap you down. You might want to wear cowboy hats or a boot and drive a pickup truck if you're going into these small towns. You can connect on that. I don't have boots or a hat or a pickup truck, so I have to be country gentleman polite. I have to say, hey, where's a good place to eat in town? I sure enjoyed the drive over here. It's pretty country on the way. Just little things can make a big difference. If you go in there and you just try to fight through based on the law and the facts of the case and your client, you're leaving a lot on the table. If I have more to say to that, if I have more to add to this, I'll add it. But I think that's all I want to say. Don't ever give up trying to fight through these hard personalities, and don't ever give up on trying to analyze what's behind it and what you can do to cut through all that.